Guys, we need to have a serious conversation about Arsenal and how they're moving in the transfer window because there's been so many stories coming out. Personal terms reportedly agreed with Eze and Madueke. Apparently, they agreed personal terms with Eze over a week ago, but haven't really done any movement on that. Victor Gyokeres, they seem to be making some movement on. Are they going for him over Sesko? Rodrygo wants out of Madrid and wants Arsenal move. He's the dream target. Are they going for Madueke and not Rodrigo? Are they going for Madueke and Rodrigo? Eze is one of them on top of Madueke and Rodrigo, and Gyokeres, are they going for 4 attackers? I don't know what's going on at Arsenal, but it's absolutely crazy. I want to talk about all the news because I do not want them to get Rodrigo. I will be absolutely gutted if he ends up at Arsenal. But the transfer news and stories around Arsenal is pretty crazy. There's even this Nwaneri to Chelsea, Madueke to Arsenal story. But I'm going to be honest, there's talk of Madueke being over 50 million. Surely Arsenal don't do that. Surely, is it, like how Berta could be using Sesko to get Gyokeres price down? Could he be using Madueke to get Rodrigo price down? Because Madrid are going to sell or going to look to sell Rodrigo. I don't know. But let's talk about Rodrigo. Then we're going to talk about Eze. Then we're going to talk about Madueke. Then we're going to talk about Gyokeres. Then we're going to talk about the latest Arsenal news. And I'm going to give you my thoughts on it as a Manchester United fan, if I think it's good, if I think it's bad, who they could be bringing in, why I don't want this to happen. So yeah, let's start with the Rodrigo news. Real Madrid and Xabi Alonso are open to Rodrigo leaving this summer. They have agreed the club will not stand in the player's way if a suitable offer is made, and Arsenal have had preliminary talks with Rodrigo's camp. So this has come out from a very good source of information via the Athletic, that Real Madrid have agreed they will not stand in Rodrigo's way. They will let him leave if a club comes in with a suitable offer. That was the first interesting report going about. We know that Real Madrid want to sell Rodrigo. He is stuck on the bench at the Club World Cup. Doesn't really suit what Xabi Alonso wants to do going forward. Didn't maybe have the best season at Real Madrid last season. They brought Franco Mastantuono in. Arda Güler is showing a lot of potential. Real Madrid want to sell Rodrigo. Will they sell Rodrigo? I think there's a strong possibility they will, depending on the suitors for him in the window. And I think considering that there's a lot of clubs that want a left winger and Diaz is hard to attain and stuff like that, and Real Madrid and Bayern Munich and Barcelona want him, I think clubs could turn their attention to Rodrigo, and Arsenal have been the strongest linked. Now, interestingly, Graham Bailey said a few things about Rodrigo, maybe suggesting that he's very much open to Arsenal. Once again, he said Rodrigo has actually expressed his desire to leave Madrid. So Madrid want to sell Rodrigo. They've got an agreement that they will sell Rodrigo if a suitable offer comes in, and Rodrigo is now frustrated and expressed his desire to leave Madrid. So that's a big story coming out in itself. He said that his belief is that Arsenal will be towards the top of his desired places to go, suggesting not only does Rodrigo want to leave Madrid, but he's very much open to that Arsenal move. They're at the top of the places where Rodrigo wants to go. Arsenal are aware that Rodrigo would cost around 70 million. I think it will cost 70 million because of their determination to sell him, but there's obviously the wage demands, etc. But he said they're not put off by this price. If we're talking about Madueke being over 50 million pounds, if he is the Rodrigo alternative, you might as well spend an extra 15 million pounds and get Rodrigo, an extra 20 million pounds to get Rodrigo. He is seen as the priority target and has been internally discussed since last season. So, Madrid want to sell Rodrigo. Rodrigo wants to leave Madrid. Arsenal at the top of Rodrigo's potential destinations. We know from Sami Mokbel, who is probably one of the more credible journalists in the space, that Real Madrid would consider offers around 70 million plus, 70 to 80 million. I think they'll accept 70 million. Rodrigo wants to become one of Arsenal's top earners. I mean, considering the money you've given Havertz, surely you would give Rodrigo the money that he wants. And Arsenal's budget constraints post-striker signing could complicate a move. I think Gyokeres' wage demands will be higher than Sesko. And I think how much Gyokeres or Sesko cost could impact that. But then we're talking about Arsenal wanting Eze on top of Rodrigo. So Eze Rodrigo on top of Rodrigo means you surely can afford a striker. Watkins is always there in the background. We will talk about that. So that was interesting. More reports came out and said that Arsenal staff rate him highly because he can play on both wings. Madueke is only a right winger. He doesn't do well on the left, whereas Rodrigo is better on the left, even though he plays majority on the right. So his versatility is probably something Arsenal like. So let's dive into what else has been said. Eze is part of a 3-attacker plan at Arsenal this summer, and the club are in the driving seat to sign him at the moment. So there's a lot of talk about Eze. Apparently, you guys agreed personal terms with Eze well over a week ago. But I mean, you haven't made a move for him. So just because you've agreed personal terms with Madueke doesn't mean that you're going to get Madueke. I don't know what the game plan is at Arsenal. It's like agree personal terms with 10 players, don't move for any of them. It's something Berta is trying. But Eze is part of a free attacker plan at Arsenal. So they want 3 attackers apparently. And Arsenal, on the driving seat to sign Eze, he wants to move cool. I think Arsenal have Eze if they're willing to pay up. Arsenal prepared to sign Rodrigo, Eze, and a striker, but are waiting for Rodrigo to say he wants to leave Real Madrid. But now we're getting reports saying that Rodrigo wants to leave Real Madrid. Is Madueke a smokescreen? Is Madueke a smokescreen? Get Rodrigo price down, act like they're not super desperate for Rodrigo, they've got alternatives, a bit like Sesko Gyokeres. Is it one of those situations? Because I can't see Arsenal getting Madueke, Rodrigo, Eze, and a striker, but I can see Arsenal getting Madueke as in a striker or Rodrigo as in a striker. But there's a 3-man attacking plan at Arsenal, including these 3 players. It was also said with Eze that a deal could get wrapped up in the next hour if they wanted, and Eze is desperate for it. There are rumours, about the release clause. Crystal Palace willing to do it. There's a rumour going about that Crystal Palace would do 3 instalments of 20 million for Eze's release clause as well. That's a rumour going about. We also know from Ben Jacobs that Arsenal's interest in Rodrigo Gordon and Madueke is separate to their pursuit of Eze. So it looks like they want a striker, they want Eze, and they want a winger. Can they afford Rodrigo on top of a striker and Eze? Is that why they're looking at Madueke? I'm not sure. I still think Gordon is a better fit for Arsenal than Madueke. I think Madueke is a better player than he's getting credit for online. People are acting like he's trash now. He's not trash. I think he's a better player than he gets credit for online. And I think for the right price, it's a good signing. But I think when someone predominantly plays on the right and you need someone to play on the left because Martinelli and Trossard maybe aren't title-winning standard, I would look at Rodrigo. Or even Gordon's an improvement because of transition fat. I think Madueke is a good player. But I don't think it's 100% what Arsenal need, if that makes sense. It was also said that Eze is one of the plans at Arsenal. However, it's unclear if he's first choice or a backup option. But apparently Arsenal have already agreed personal terms with Eze and the player wants to move. So this was said on June 26th that Arsenal had agreed personal terms with Eze. We're going to get into what David Ornstein said that Arsenal agreed personal terms with Madueke. We've also got Rodrigo apparently wanting to move to Arsenal. I mean, surely don't get all 3. Now, they suggest, is Eze for first choice or not? Well, apparently Eze's wanted on top of a winger. So the only alternative for Eze is like a Xavi Simons if Arsenal are looking at more of a 10-type player. It's interesting what Arsenal are doing. But the one that's really shocked me, I don't want Eze to happen and I don't want Rodrigo to happen. Like, that can't happen. But Madueke, I'm just a bit shocked. So this has come out of Madueke. Lord Madueke has agreed personal terms with Arsenal as they consider approach for Chelsea and England international. Arsenal have the 23-year-old's green light, blah, 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 blah. Basically, Noni Madueke is being looked at by Arsenal. And it's not just a rumour that they're looking at him. They've now agreed personal terms with him. Now, that's quite significant when you agree personal terms with a player. Although in Arsenal's case, they seem to have agreed personal terms with nearly every player under the sun and don't seem to be moving for them. Do they want him? Are they looking at the price? Are they using him to get a price down for Eze, for a price down for Rodrigo? I don't know. This Nwaneri going the other way makes no sense. But I'm going to be completely honest with you. I do not understand the Madueke move. I don't. I think, Madueke is someone you bring in as a Reece Nelson, Trossard upgrade alongside Rodrigo. That's who you bring him in. Rodrigo, Sesko, Eze, and Madueke is excellent. Absolutely excellent if he's coming in as the Trossard Reece upgrade. And I think the only way that Arsenal could sign Madueke, Rodrigo, Sesko, and Eze is if Martinelli or Trossard were sold. Let's be honest. But as the wing signing, that's not enough. Arsenal need a top-class left winger. They're now signing a right winger that wouldn't start for them for 50 million. That does not make sense. I don't know where that fits in. Madueke, look, if you can get Madueke for under 30 million, very good business. If you get him for under 35 million, good business. Cool. Under 35 million, good business. But as the winger signing, as the sole winger signing, I don't understand. I don't understand it. Especially when there's reports now that Chelsea want over 50 million. We're talking Chelsea expecting 55 million for Madueke. Chelsea, who won't spend 55 million on Garnacho, who's 3 years younger. want 55 million. Chelsea spent 55 million on Gittins with 1 goal in 6 months. So maybe that's why they view Madueke as a 50 plus million player. I don't think it's worth that for Arsenal. I think you look at the market, there's better players out there for 50 million quid. There's better players out there. We know from David Ornstein that Arsenal are looking at Madueke as a target to provide backup and competition to Saka. Apparently he appeals because he can play on both flanks, but he's very much a right winger in my opinion. Obviously nothing's happening between Arsenal and Chelsea right now, but there's a lot of conversations happening between Arsenal and Madueke, and the player wants to move and he's open to discussions and he's agreed personal terms. Sami Mokbel, who's a good source, also said that Arsenal want Madueke, but he said there isn't any formal agreement between the club. But Chelsea are aware of the interest and there's growing belief from all sides the deal can be struck. Now, Sami Mokbel is one of the most reliable journalists when it comes to Arsenal news. And he's saying, well, there's nothing quite as of yet going on between Arsenal and Chelsea. There's a feeling that a deal could be struck. Madueke obviously is open to the move. So there's a lot going about. But the weird situation is Nwaneri really going to go the other way? Like, surely not. Like, surely. Because also, if Nwaneri wants game time, they've got Esteval, they've got Paez, and they've got Kenda coming in next season. Like, Romano said, in the last 24 hours, Chelsea have inquired about Ethan Nwaneri's situation. Fair play. One of the best young players out there. Chelsea love kids. They absolutely do. If there are issues over his contract at Arsenal, Chelsea have been telling people close to the player they'll be ready to attack. But the ball's still in Arsenal's court. I think I wouldn't be worried if I was an Arsenal fan, because that just doesn't make sense. I think Ethan Nwaneri wants to get the best contract possible out of Arsenal, and he'll use Chelsea to get some nice wages out of Arsenal. That's what I think. I think it's agent talk. I think it's absolute agent talk. Let's just talk about the striker situation. I don't want this video to drag on too much, but let's just talk about the striker situation and what's come out via Ben Jacobs. Because Arsenal do want a striker. It's crazy to think that they're returning for pre-season and they haven't signed a striker, and they've been signing defenders and midfielders. Classic Arsenal. Actually, they haven't signed Mascara yet, so they've only been signing midfielders and Kepa, which is quite funny. But if they do their business, they do their business, and they do want a striker. They like Sesko and they like Gyokeres, and Berta apparently is playing both deals off each other, trying to use one to leverage a better price for the other. The striker market is crazy. I also want to get the best deal possible. If neither Yarez or Sesko can be signed, Ollie Watkins is the fallback option. I think Ollie Watkins is a good option to come in for 2 seasons. I think he is. I think he would have more impact than Sesko right away, to be honest. Sami Mokbel, who is a very good source of information, also said that Arsenal have made headway for a move for Victor Gyokeres in recent days. And obviously Victor Gyokeres is very keen to join, and the pursuit is being driven by Berta. Before Berta's arrival, Sami Mokbel did mention that, Sesko was top of the agenda, but Berta coming in has maybe put a bit more interest in Gyokeres, who obviously really wants this Arsenal move. And headway has been made by Arsenal in the last few days. And then interestingly, you get Fabrizio Romano come out and say, this stuff, which isn't all about Arsenal. But he says Arsenal keep working on Gyokeres. Not Arsenal keep working on Gyokeres and Sesko. But as I said, Arsenal keep working on Gyokeres. So are Arsenal going for Gyokeres? That's interesting. Eze terms agreed. Madueke terms agreed. They seem to be making headway on Gyokeres. Rodrygo's expected to leave Real Madrid and wants the move. Unless Martinelli goes to Saudi for £73 million or something that's being quoted, I don't see them getting all 4. I don't. But there's also reports coming out that Arsenal could close an agreement for Victor Gyokeres today, but it's not come from the most reliable source. But there is a few Gyokeres stories coming out today. So one to keep an eye on. Thank you for watching. Bye.